welcome to my channel. This is new, so a lot of YouTubers will be like, welcome back to my channel if you're new here, but we're all new here. So we welcome. This is a new learning experience that I'm stepping into and falling in love with and feeling empowered in, and it's been a long time coming. If you watched my last video, I do want to touch on that a little bit, just kind of what I covered. It's not necessary to go back and watch it unless you really want to, you know. She's cute, she's finding out, but I did record it in November of 2022, where I was in a experience of my life. She's a little emotional. She's feeling it, so that may show up. Yeah, so I recorded that when I was having an experience in my life where the waves of feeling open and empowered enough to lean in to knowing what I felt most aligned with was infrequent and would flow in and out of feeling excited and ready to feeling very low and uninspired and not having much access to knowing my worth, which is hard to admit because at that time I wasn't aware that that's what was fully happening. Like, I didn't know how out of touch I was. So yeah, so over the last, that's almost 6 months now, about 4.5 to 6 months since I recorded that, and that flow persisted pretty well, where I would have moments, very brief moments, it felt like, of getting it and like being so excited and ready to go, and like nothing could get in my way, to longer moments, it felt like, to moments that lasted far longer than I would have liked, and it was necessary, of just like limbo, absolute limbo, like purgatory experience, honestly, where I just felt like none of it made sense, and I couldn't identify much of myself with like what I felt grounded in, where I felt like I belonged, how I was meant to exist as the version of myself that I was like emulating. Yeah, so that is that video. That previous video was coming from a place of like really being in an ebb and flow of like having a moment of being in touch with that deep inner space that is the truest form of me, the truest like access to me, to then this much more detached version of me, that not detached in like a cute way, not detached in the healthy like psychological like, you know, detachment way, and like of this world, so maybe attached to this world, to the outside, to things out of my control, trying to find my place in spaces that I just did not even belong in. And coming out of that, the last few weeks has been a ride. It's been such a ride, and I want the first few videos of this channel to be an exposure of all of this, so that I'm really clear about where I'm operating from, which does feel like a space of ground zero with the most aligned version of myself, which is like the most exciting, empowering feeling, and how that process looks, which, like, I think I've said, I don't know if I said this in my last video, but it certainly has like been on my mind, where a lot of people online, it's like we speak to the experience being challenging and confronting and uncomfortable and things like that. Like, we speak to it, and there's not a lot of like actual representation of processing all of that and the truth of like all that it entails, I should say. This is all that it entails. And while I'm feeling so excited about this part of like, about this reality that I'm stepping into with awareness of myself in the most deep way that I have ever had access to me, it is still flooded with uncomfortable experiences, emotions, thought processes that persist from, and are consequences from, most of my life having operated from like spaces of survival and defense mechanisms and fight or flight experiences and fear. And I'm reading this book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, who I'm like, he's brilliant. It's fantastic. But I'm reading his book, and I'm reading his book, and it speaks to psychological time, which, if you haven't read it, I highly recommend it. It certainly calls you out, and like, it's a book to take your time with, because, you know, a lot of it is like very confronting, very like, this is going to be a lot of work, and I'm committed to it. For me, that's the experience. But it speaks to psychological time, which is basically our thought processes that exist in future or past, and that our ego, that is where our ego exists. That's where our mind thrives, and we live in a very like mental society, a very like mind-driven society, a very masculine society, where thinking ahead and thinking about your past so that you don't make all these things, where it's like living back there or living ahead is what we are trained to do, or at least I was trained to do. And not even necessarily, but like, it's just very pertinent. And if you aren't trained to be present and you aren't invited into this practice, it's easy to get caught up in anxiety, depression, all of these things, all of these symptoms of thinking or existing anywhere outside of the present moment. And I am in the process of addressing the consequences of having persistently? I don't think so. I don't think that's a word. To have persisted in existing in mindsets that, where I was like, well, what if this happens? Well, what if that happens? Well, what if I do, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to make that work? If this didn't happen to me, then I would know better. If this was different, then blah, blah, whatever, like, I wasn't, just victim. It's victim mentality, basically. Like, you're stuck in this victimhood. You end up being anxious. You aren't able to be present with yourself. You step out of your own identity. You become something that isn't you anymore. I became something that wasn't me anymore. I I don't know how to explain like the quantum leap experience that I've had over the last week or two, which is very recent. So that's why I'm like, I want everyone to know that like I am that shit does not just go away. Like those cycles of reaction and thought and feeling are ever present, and I just have a different way of interacting with them, and I'm continually practicing different ways of interacting with them so that they don't suffocate my present existence. But yeah, I stepped into ways of being that no longer served me, yes, but even to where like I could identify that it was me. And I think that this goes into looking at pictures of ourselves from the past where it's like, who is that? What was going on? Like energetically, I look at pictures of myself from the past and I'm like, who is she? Like I don't even know. I've been so far away from being present with myself that I don't even like recognize. Even like a month ago, 2 months ago, I listened to J. Cole talk about this too, where he's like, was it J. Cole? I think it was J. Cole. I also think it might have been Russ. I listen to a lot of things and watch a lot of things. I was listening to someone speak to this who is in the music industry for sure. That is a crazy mix-up. Anyway, I was listening to someone talk about this, and they said like it's like I don't recognize myself from 3 months ago. I don't recognize myself from a month ago. Like the shifts that are happening are pretty constant, and I'm prepared for that to be what's true, while also knowing that I have never been as present with myself as I am right now, with the light and the joy and the abundance and the ease of being me. And I think this is something that is like profound within Western society for sure, and I would, with globalization, I would argue most of the world, where we are so distracted and encouraged to be so like future oriented, while also dealing with the fact that we likely have experiences from the past that have given us training or understanding that no longer serves our most aligned selves. And I don't know where the train is leaving the station, my thought process is. But I will forever be changing, all to say. I will forever be changing and growing and flowing and being fluid and finding out. And I am being presented with the opportunity to do that as the most connected version of myself, connected like to source self that I've ever been. And that's through some really extreme work. It's through some, not extreme, and that's through some very intentional work. And my willingness to experience the uncomfortability of this unknown space and the fear, sadness, and pain. Like, the physical experience of those emotions when it comes to the unlearning and relearning of this experience is so real and so necessary for us to step into, remember exactly who we are as like a piece of the natural puzzle. And it's so cool. It's so cool. It gives me life. Like, it makes my life feel like it has purpose to know that we get to access the energetic greatness of all that exists through our physical bodies by being in love with all of it, and by being at ease with all of it, and accepting and joyous with all that we do. And this is all very new for me. So I intend to move into a more structured, but like lightly, because my systems of structure are very fluid. But a more structured way of approaching YouTube while I navigate being present with all of the new ways of being I'm trying on. Whew, that was a whole sentence. That was a whole wild navigation of that sentence. Going to the gym. I've been going. Your girl's she's getting fit. She's getting that dumpy. Like, she's, I gotta get my food right, and then she's coming. We put in work. And with my food, like, just in every area of my life, my physical body, my spiritual body, my mental body, all of it is being addressed through different avenues of creation and activity and intention. And we'll be exploring that. I just wanted to tap in about my previous video, and kind of like now, 6 months later, where we're at with everything. And yeah. We get to be here. We get to be on this planet, and we get to be in awe of it. Always. There's so much to be in awe of. And my intention is to be an example of what that can look like when you navigate your way into what that can look like when you intentionally move through all of it as a very present person. That's what this is all about. I'll see you next time.